What's your take on the breach fine aspect of it, but also the notification period, John?
Yes, so in terms of security incidents notification, GDPR really does raise the bar. Three things that, for me, mark out what we have to achieve in meeting that raised bar. Number one, we have to have credible security monitoring capability. It's no use just having a SOC or a managed service in a SOC. You need to have that, what goes on in that SOC, informed by knowledge of the way your business operates. Number two, you have to have clearly understood in advance what is your process to respond to a security incident. Many companies don't really get that sorted out until the worst happens and they have a security incident, whether or not it impacts personal data. And number three, I think it's very important that you err on the side of liaising with the regulators as soon as even a suspected instance has occurred. At the beginning of the implementation of this new regulatory regime, I think the regulators are going to respond best to those who come and talk to them. So if you've got a security incident or a suspected incident, talk to your regulator, and in advance you can prepare by knowing who are you going to talk to.
Playing devil's advocate here, is that even possible for that 72-hour window? Tim, what's your take on that?
I think it is possible. I think it involves a complete mindset change. Security was always about locking things down, stopping the bad guys. I think if you accept that the inevitable breach will happen and actually prepare yourself for that breach and how you deal with it, but also if you start to consider security to enable and use it for generating new revenues for your business or start to maximize the value of your data, the business sees it differently. It doesn't see it as a very large cost. It actually sees it as something that can differentiate itself. And if you're thinking of exploiting big data analytics and exploiting the data that you've gathered and understand, you can really start to harvest some value.
I think on the issue of whether 72-hour breach notification is feasible, I think you've got to take a very practical stance as a business come May 2018. And that practical stance has got to be informed by having a relationship with the regulator. If you then go to the regulator and say to the regulator, well, we think a security breach may have occurred some weeks ago. We discovered it on Monday and it's now Tuesday and we're telling you. I think that is a demonstration of good faith. It won't necessarily get you off the hook if the fact that you only discovered the breach a few weeks later is a clear indication of some lack of due diligence on your part. But if you've been diligently monitoring, I believe the regulators are going to understand that detecting security breaches is a challenge.
And Judith, transparency here, that's what we're talking about with the regulator. Does that chime with your view?
For my clients, if they come to me and say, hey, I'm not sure what happened, but it seems to me that this is a data breach, of course we investigate that. And once I declare it as a data breach, I call the data protection officer or authority in the Netherlands. And I have this one contact person that I talk to every once a month and explain to her what happened, and sometimes she advises me, sometimes we just negotiate what to do next.
Let's talk about those fines, Judith. Up to 4% of global annual turnover, or 20 million euros, I believe. As Tim says, could put some companies out of business. What's your take on that as a whole?
The fines are pretty high, and they look quite similar to the sanctions we have for instance, crossing borders with dual-use items. They're pretty high as well. You see that more often. There's a comparison between these type of sanctions, and it actually has great influences on your annual report.